We often talk about sanity versus insanity, reality versus delusion. I think those are some of the fundamental challenges that we're trying to tackle day in and day out, which is just separate not only fact from fiction, but just bizarre from, wait a second, I thought we all kind of understood some of the same things here. I thought we could operate from the same baseline foundational understanding of what we're trying to achieve in this country, and perhaps even more to the point, what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, what does 2 + 2 equal? And we are being forced increasingly by the Democrat left, by the culture apparatus that they have, by the control of institutions, right? And remember, institutional control does not necessarily reflect sentiment within the institution. So all Disney employees, for example, do not share, and I'd be willing to bet probably less than half of them share, the idea that there must be a dramatic increase in LGBTQIA. By the way, I believe that's the full plus. That's the full acronym.
Every letter is where this is
programming.
Headed,
I don't want to leave one out, Clay.
I know.
To leave one out would be, this is a high crime these days, to leave one of the letters out. And there may be a new letter added tomorrow, and if it is, Clay, I will make sure that I add that letter. This is the longest acronym I've ever heard of, but put that aside for a second. People at Disney, people at these companies, they don't necessarily reflect at the very top what the sentiments of the individuals are in this far left, especially on the far left, trans agenda stuff. And I'm talking to you about this right now because sometimes Clay and I we share something and we're talking, we're sharing stuff at night with the team. We're waking up in the morning. I mean, this show, people ask what our show prep is, and our show prep is we're awake, we're thinking about and talking about the show, basically. And there's this Navy pronoun education video that is making the rounds right now on social media. And I said, wait, is this real? This is the United States Navy. We've had naval aviators on the show. Top Gun is a naval aviator program, for example. We've talked about, my grandfather served on the USS Bataan in World War II in the Pacific. I mean, our Navy is amazing. The envy of the world, the most powerful naval force in the history of the planet. And yet here is the Navy's new instructional video on proper pronoun usage. Play clip 4.
Hi, my name is Johnny and I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, and I'm Kanchi and I use she, her pronouns.
And we're here to talk about pronouns.
What is a pronoun? A pronoun is how we identify ourselves apart from our name, and it's also how people refer to us in conversations.
Using the right pronouns is a really simple way to affirm someone's identity. It is a signal of acceptance and respect.
If it's a signal of acceptance and respect, how do we go about creating a safe space for everybody?
That's a good question. A really good way to do that is to use inclusive language. Instead of saying something like, hey guys, you can say, hey everyone, or hey team.
It makes me sick.
Come on, man.
We're gonna get our ass kicked at some point, and when we get our ass kicked, and I don't know when it's gonna be, when we get our ass kicked, everybody's gonna turn around and say, instead of developing the biggest collection of ass kickers in American modern history, we were worried about developing the biggest collection of ass kissers in American history, where all we do is sit around worried about whether we're going to offend people or not. Here is the hardcore reality. You know this better than I do, for sure, Buck, and there are many people out there who know it far better than both of us. When your life is in danger, you want the baddest ass on the planet helping to protect your lives. When your country's future is at stake, you want the toughest dudes or the toughest girls that are available out there to be able to bring down the thunder. And when I sit around and I look at all this ridiculous showmanship, because that's really what it is, right? When you look at all of the external, doesn't impact the creation of the greatest fighting force on the planet, we are just wasting time and we are enabling our enemies. China and Russia and Iran. They aren't sitting around doing inclusive pronoun videos to encourage all of their people in the armed forces to think about avoiding saying, hey, guys, and say, hey, team instead. All of this is misplaced priorities that is going to lead at some point, and I hope it's not anytime soon, but at some point to us getting whipped because we aren't developing the meanest, baddest fighting force on the planet when we are focusing on issues like these. We just aren't. And you can say, well, the military needs to be a kinder, gentler place. I would dispute that. I would say that the military needs to be razor's edge tough. And I don't believe that behavior like this is creating more toughness in our military. And I bet there's almost not a single person listening to us right now who believes it. And unfortunately, Buck, I guarantee you a lot of people in the armed services who are listening to us right now are rolling their eyes over this because they see it as clearly a way to deconstruct the elements of toughness and forcefulness that should be the hallmarks of a successful fighting force.
It's also not true. I mean, everything that you said is true, but I mean, this notion that, of course, I agree, and the combat veterans and active duty military listening to this show, I know a lot of them, right?
Yep.
I mean, I've slept in the same barracks with some of these folks overseas, and they're rolling their eyes at this.
Yeah.
They're saying, you've got to be kidding. This is what I mean, though, about when I started talking about the top, the HR department and the C-suite is not represented. This is what the left figured out. This is I'll say it, this is one of their strokes of tactical genius in the culture wars. You don't need to convince everybody. Just have the people that have the power to hire and fire, who are signing the paychecks, and who want to be invited to the fancy cocktail parties. So HR department all the way to C-suite agree with the far left. And then that's what the institutional power is used to do. But that's why you have the Navy here saying all this, doing this whole pronoun indoctrination stuff and how it's about acceptance and respect. No. Pronouns are about whether you are addressing a person who is male or female. There is not this demand in society now for the make-believe pronouns, or even worse in so many cases, the plural pronouns. I mean, I saw this with Jennifer Lopez now has a daughter who has come out non-binary, I believe. And, non-binary or trans, or I can't keep it all straight. No one can. And they're being referred to, the media is referring to this individual as they. Well, when I read the news story, I go, wait, they? No. Even the New York Times admits they is for plural, okay?
Yes.
We're not changing all of our language because some people have an emotional need to dictate the speech of others.
I don't get to choose my adjectives. Imagine how cocky of that it would be if, Buck, I came on and I said, every time you refer to me, I demand you say the incredibly handsome and the incredibly brilliant Clay Travis. Now, there's a lot of people out there who would like to use...
Maybe we do refer to you that way, Clay. But
there's lots of people out there that would like to use adjectives that are nowhere near as kind as those or as beneficial. And by the way, you can read the comments on any Clay and Buck post and you can find the opposite. But you don't get to dictate to other people how they describe you. That isn't a part of American discourse. And so what we've got here is, to use an ancient military analogy, this is the Trojan horse. Our military is being destroyed from within by these kooks who are bringing in this diversity and inclusion language. And what they are doing is, just like with the Trojan horse, for those of you who are fans of ancient military history, it's being brought inside, and then it is being unfurled, all of the things that are hidden. And by the way, this is not just a military analogy. I think this is happening to many institutions across our country. They bring in these diversity and inclusion people hidden inside the Trojan horse, right? And then when it takes over the interior of the company, everybody looks around and says, how did this happen? Well, you let them inside your doors. You brought them inside the gates of the fortress, and now they are going to run roughshod over all of your protocols because this is what they do. They attack, they are locusts, they swarm, and they destroy from the inside once you allow them to do so.
And it always starts with, it's just about acceptance and being inclusive. That's the way, to your analogy of the Trojan horse, that's the way that they get it into the walls of ancient Troy. That's the way the Greeks trick everybody, so to speak, because then it turns into, hold on a second, I'm sorry, Colonel, I know we're in a combat zone, but you just said you men are going to come under fire. I need you to be prepared. Can we not use every single Marine in the room right now is in fact a male and a hard-charging, door-kicking, butt kicker. But can you not use the male pronoun? That's what happens here.
Yeah.
Okay. You have one-offs. You have individuals who are in this extreme fringe minority who are going to make demands of everybody, which will be a distraction, which will hurt esprit de corps. And if you don't, then they're going to want penalties for this too. And for anybody who thinks it's an exaggeration, look at what they've done in some school districts now. Dead naming, which for anyone who doesn't know is a reference to a trans individual's previous name. So I go on the radio, I'll say, Bradley Manning is out of prison now. It's Chelsea Manning. Even if it's an honest mistake, it's a dead naming because of the trans identity that you have to now all accept. And they want people to be punished for this. Wrong pronoun usage for school children is to be punished now, perhaps even with suspension. I'm sorry, a 6-year-old walking up to somebody, with a beard and saying, yes, sir, is normal. Okay, I don't want to hear about how, but maybe the bearded man is actually a bearded lady. No.
And also, on this same context, it is so, use the sports analogy. Those Tampa Bay Rays players who said, hey, I don't want to wear the pride flag on my shoulder. Buck, it moves from you have to tolerate my choices to you have to behave in a way that reinforces what I believe, or you're not being tolerant and inclusive. Which to me is the language.
Celebration.
That's right.
Yep.
It moves from, hey, I'm happy, this is me, these are my life choices, to you have to endorse my life choices and be proud of the choices that I am making. That's a big leap. That's what ends up happening. That is what occurs when you let this Trojan horse in your company, when you let it into your military, and it is not making us a better fighting force by any stretch of the imagination.